Now we're going to talk about how to find midpoints. The midpoint on a number line is the average or mean of the coordinates of the endpoints. For instance, if I'm looking for the midpoint of segment AB, I'm looking for a point that falls exactly between points A and B, the midpoint. So the formula that we can use for the midpoint of a number line, of a segment on a number line, is where we take the midpoint equals the coordinate of one endpoint plus the coordinate of the other endpoint divided by 2. For example, let's say that what we're looking for, that point A's coordinate is -4 and point B's coordinate is 9. So then the midpoint of segment AB would be -4 plus 9 divided by 2, which would give us 5 divided by 2, which is 2.5, or 2.5. That would be the midpoint of this coordinate of this segment on the number line. Now, what if we're looking for the midpoint in the coordinate plane? We're still doing the same thing. The midpoint in the coordinate plane is still the average of the x coordinates and the average of the y coordinates of the endpoints. You can't see the word endpoints, but it's there, so make sure and put that in your notes. Now, every point on the coordinate plane has the coordinates x and y. Point A has coordinates x and y, as does point B. So what we do to show the difference between the x's and the y's is we put a little subscript down here. This is x sub 1 and y sub 1. All that means is that x and that y go together to make one point. This is x sub 2 and y sub 2. It's not x squared, not y squared. X sub 2, y sub 2 just means that this x and y go together to form another point. So the formula for the midpoint in the coordinate plane is, it's going to be another coordinate, another ordered pair, because the midpoint's going to fall right here between somewhere again. We don't know exactly where right now, but it's going to fall exactly between points A and B, and it's also going to be a point with the coordinates x and y. So the coordinates for the x coordinate of M is going to be the average of the x coordinates. A's x coordinate, x sub 1, plus B's x coordinate, x sub 2, divided by 2. And the coordinate for the y coordinate of the midpoint is going to be the average of the y's. Y sub 1 from point A plus y sub 2 from point B divided by 2. So for example, let's say that the ordered pair, let's say that we know the midpoint of our coordinate plane instead of knowing the ordered pairs. This formula says if we know the endpoints, we can easily find the midpoint just by finding the average of our x's and our y's. What takes us a little more time and effort is if we don't know one endpoint. So that we're going to do an example where we know that the midpoint is -2, 1. So our midpoint, we are going to be given that our midpoint M is the ordered pair -2, 1, and that one endpoint, let's say point A, is the ordered pair -5, 7. Now that's nothing like what it looks like on our picture, but we're going to use this anyway. Our job is to find the other endpoint, point B. What is the coordinates of point B? So we're going to start out by using our midpoint formula. So our midpoint, let's scratch that out because that shouldn't be there. Our midpoint itself is the ordered pair negative 2, 1. So let's put in negative 2, 1 for our midpoint, M. Our midpoint equals the average of our x-coordinates. Now we know the x-coordinate of A, it's negative 5. We do not know the x-coordinate of B, so we're just going to put x for the other endpoint. We divide it by 2. We know the y-coordinate of A, which is 7, but again we do not know the y-coordinate of B, so we just put y, and it's divided by 2. So we've used our formula to substitute in what we know. Now, what we also know is that we need to separate these two in order to solve. We need to find our x-coordinate using this information and our y-coordinate using this information. We know that to get negative 2, we would do negative 5 plus x divided by 2. And we know to get negative 1, we would do 7 plus y divided by 2. Now we have two equations that we're going to solve. The problem here is we have a fraction. To get rid of our fraction, we're going to multiply both sides by 2. Remember, that divides out this denominator. What we do to one side, we do to the other. So we're going to multiply by 2. So we get negative 4 equals negative 5 plus x. In solving for x, we're going to add 5 to both sides. So we find out that x is 1. We're going to do the same thing to solve for y. We've got a fraction. We need to multiply by 2 to get rid of that denominator. That divides out to 1. Multiply this side by 2. We get that negative 2 equals 7 plus y. Subtract 7 to get y by itself. We find that y is negative 9. Now we're not finished because we're looking for the coordinates of the other endpoint. So we have to put this answer as an ordered pair. Point B's coordinates would be x is 1, y is negative 9. So it's the ordered pair 1, negative 9. That's how we find the midpoints on the number line.